Twist in the title race, and not a good twist as far as Celtic are concerned. Hibs 2, Celtic 1 at Celtic Park this afternoon. This is Tino with the Final Whistle Show, joined here by Paddy. Paddy, your initial feeling, your gut feeling on that one today and what it all now means?
Gut feeling is that we played some nice controlling football in the first half. We got some good balls into the box and we didn't do anything with it. Really concerning, Tino. I just don't see if we can't go and put teams like Hibs away, who listen, it's not an easy task. They've played well this season, but if we need to win the leagues, we need to be able to beat the teams that are in the top six. And another opportunity has passed us. That's twice we've failed to beat Hibs this season, and I really struggle to see where this team for this run in has the quality to go and try and put a title charge in.
Our record against the top six or the others in the top six isn't good. I need to check the stats, but I don't know what wins we've got. Have we got 2 wins, if that, over the various other teams, which include Hibs, Motherwell, Falkirk, Rangers and Hearts? It's not title winning form, is it?
No, it's really not.
I'm really keen to gauge opinion throughout this recording from the various folks, and thanks to everyone who's tuned in already on the live. And I'm just going to bring up a few initial comments, Paddy, to kind of maybe set the tone and see where different folks are. So Plunge has got the ball rolling by saying, league is over. This team is the worst I've seen since the 90s. And I think John Coyles of a similar mindset. Totally agree, this team is weak. It's the worst team I've seen in many years. No way this team wins anything this season. The dominant years are over. Teams look forward to playing us. Smell the Glove said, well, that's the end of that. And so on and so forth, various comments like that. And let us know if that's how you're feeling, or if you think this title is still there to be won, because that's how I feel. And I think Celtic are a really poor side. I really do. There's no dressing that up. But I think Rangers are a poor side, and that's Rangers who have drawn with bottom of the league Livingston today. And I think Hearts, at the moment, Hearts are top of the pile, and credit to them, they deserve to be there. The table never lies. Cup games can lie and you can get lucky and unfortunate in cup games, but Hearts at the moment are 6 clear of us, and what are they, 4 clear of Rangers. But somehow, despite being so poor, Paddy, we are still in the mix, and that's where I'm at in terms of not giving up. So I don't think for a minute this is a great Celtic side. But I also don't buy into the thing of we don't deserve this title. If you finish top of the pile by 1 single goal, you do deserve the title, whether you're a bad side or not. Where are you at on that kind of sentiment?
Oh no, listen, if we go and win the league, then we deserve to win the league. I don't think you go and sneak the league. And it is credit to Hearts in terms of the pressure that they've put on us. They've played some really strong football at the start of the season, but now they're in the nitty gritty. We always talk about the games that make champions. We always talk about those 1-0 wins, having to grind it out. They ground out a really good result yesterday against Falkirk. But for us today, it was a real opportunity to lay down a marker, build a bit of momentum after a really poor performance on Thursday, and get ourselves ready for what's going to be a really difficult game next week at Ibrox. And just again, like, I thought there was some good build-up play. I thought the first half we really put Hibs under pressure. I thought we did react to the goal really well, and I thought, right, okay, there's a good opportunity for us here. But the amount of times we got to the byline, or the amount of times we get the ball into the box, and just nothing. And it's been the problem all season. It's been the issue that we've had all season, is that we don't have an out-and-out striker. We've still to replace Kyogo. We've attempted, but it's been last-minute attempts at players. Signing Kelechi Iheanacho after the transfer window, probably through the contact book of Brendan Rodgers, Chmanchara. I'm not convinced yet. I'm not convinced, and it looks like our manager's not convinced with Adamu as well. So it's a really dire times in that position. And listen, Nygren put him up with another goal again today. That you can't take his goals away from him. What you can take away is he's given absolutely nothing else in the game. He's an absolute man down.
In a comment from Gypsy King backs that up. He says Nygren is never and will never be a midfielder. He's a brilliant goal scorer, and he should be playing off a striker. And I can understand that to a point, because there are fundamentals you need to be a good central midfielder. You need to have a bit of dig, a bit of bite, some defensive qualities, all those things. He doesn't bring any of that. all he brings is goals, and that sounds like the most ridiculous thing, but that's kind of where his input, stops at this moment in time. There's so much going on, Paddy. You mentioned Iheanacho not even in the squad today after coming off the bench, and I thought doing okay during the week. Someone posted earlier on, I just caught it before coming on, doesn't work weekends, Iheanacho. He's just a midweek kind of guy, but he is the, in terms of recognised number 9s, he is Celtic's top goal scorer in terms of our recognised strikers with 3. So all our goals are coming from elsewhere, Negren and otherwise, and that maybe tells you where you're at. I mean, there is no doubt squad management or squad mismanagement, to be more accurate, is what's going on. It's what's playing out in front of our very eyes. And the board and the club had an opportunity in January to back Martin O'Neill because, I think very honestly, and it's all about Raw today, the title is still there for the taking, at least on paper, whether you believe in sentiment or emotion of it all. On paper, it is still there, right, with the game in hand. But it was certainly still there on the 1st of January when the club had the chance to pull the trigger and really back the manager despite the chaos of the season to that point. You've now got Junior Adamu who can't get off the bench. You've got Joel Vicar who can't even get on the bench, and various other bits and bobs. Who's come in January that's had that real notable impact? Arujo, great, steadies the ship at right back, and then you're scratching about the big centre half who we'll get to. But where's the match winners, Paddy? Where's the number 9 that could have fired you to the title?
We've left ourselves in such a position, that there's a huge risk to try and bed these players in and try and get them to take a lot of the load off those that are already failing. We spoke about it in the weekly show leading up to the end of the window. The further that transfer window went on, the bigger the weight of the pressure it would be to the players coming in to try and save our season. And listen, I have to look at the lineup today as well in terms of the impact that we are looking to have. This team has failed massively to try and take the game with the scruff of the neck in the first half and really put a stamp on it. And I think that O'Neill gambled today with the Ox starting. Personally, I do. I think he gambled with it. Also gambled with keeping Tenetke in the team alongside Yang. For me, I said on last night's show that I would have rather have seen him come on and have that impact in the last stretch of the game. And if you look at the subs today, it killed any form of momentum that we had, albeit, yes, we were down to 10 men. But I go back to the fact that we're meant to be this Series Football Club operating, and we're still relying on James Forrest, and no respect to Forrest at all. But James Forrest was a hope for us coming on today that he would bring something to the party. He's nowhere near the pace yet. He's nowhere near the pace of it anymore. This is that's a separate story. We know the anger, we know the distrust towards what this board have built in terms of the squad and what they've failed to replace and what they've failed to commit to. But the big issue now is that you're looking at that bench today, you're looking at the starting 11 today, and you're now actually starting to see that people are down in tools. Maeda, Hatate coming on, didn't look interested. Auston Trusty, I have no idea what you're playing at. Our corner, Tino, our corner. Do not get yourself so harassed in that situation to even think about doing that. Come on, mate, you're a professional footballer at that level. Let anyone annoy you. You should be the bigger person here. We're on the ascendancy. We're attacking from a corner. He gave the referee a decision, and an easy one at that. It's a red card all day long for lashing out like that. We are really, really shooting ourselves in the foot this season, and we've said it many a time. The only people that will lose the league, that will cause Celtic to lose the league this season is Celtic.
Yeah, it's all self-inflicted stuff. There's no doubt about that, and the Auston Trusty incident probably comes into that bracket, and we'll get to that, in some of the finer detail, Paddy. The kind of key moments of the game, but whether it's off the park or on the park, it's things that Celtic are doing that seem to be causing us the most hassle. What we would usually do, so obviously this show's live here on the Celtic Exchange Patreon, and thanks to everyone. There's big numbers joining us just now, and loads of really good comments coming in. We would usually cut the stream in a few minutes, and it would remain exclusive to members, but we're going to keep it live tonight. We know there's a lot of kind of emotion, lots of opinion, lots of kind of heat in there at this moment in time. So this will remain live. We'll be here for another maybe 20 minutes or so, give or take. If you fancy checking out all our live pre and post match shows and additional episodes on a longer term basis, check out patreon.com/Celtic Exchange. We are doing free 7-day trials there at this moment in time. So jump in for the week, see if you like it, and you can get on board on a more permanent basis. Paddy, as I said, there's various comments coming in, and I'm really keen to introduce a few of them as we go along. But let's take it back to the start of the day. In the lineup, the first big call is Kasper Schmeichel remains in place. What did you think of that decision by the manager?
Listen, I think Schmeichel should have been replaced, but again, I also look at who we've got on the bench. It doesn't really fill me with confidence, Tino. So I can understand why he's been left in as well.
How do you think he done?
It was fine. A couple of stray passes, but the emotional side, like any one of us in that position, it would get to any of us. I thought he'd done okay. Made a good save in the first half. Distribution was a little bit poor, but we've come to see that and we've come to watch that over the last few weeks, so nothing out of the ordinary. Don't think he can do much for the goal. I think there's a few bodies in front of him for the second goal, so no blame on my end for that.
One of the first things he done was give it away on the deck, and I was when the ball came to him at his feet, I thought, just play it safe, just play a straightforward pass, and he played it, I think, in between Scales and Tierney. And I don't know if it was Martin Boyle or somebody cut out. I thought, what are you doing? You're at a point, you're at crisis point. You know, you're very fortunate to be playing today. Just make the safe pass. And I thought when he made that pass, you know, luckily it never came to anything. And as you say, the game played out and he was absolutely fine. But I thought that was a crazy decision to be making. You might have, on you go.
I would agree with that. It was a crazy decision because I think an inform on top of his game, Kasper Schmeichel, it goes straight out to Tierney, no problem. And he knows that that's the right ball to play. You should be able to skip the middleman and get the ball moving quicker, and that's what he's wanted to do. But you could just tell, look, there's a fragile state there, and I understand why that mistakes came about. He should be keeping things a lot more simpler, just for the time being. I remember Joe Hart kind of coming into the same kind of criticism, a few mistakes. He brought a lot of things back to basics in the running and was actually pivotal for us. I think that's where Stevie Woods needs to come in and really just try and ground Schmeichel and say, we need you just to be switched on and keep it to the very basic setup. Also seen a lot of hesitancy in the second half with goal kicks, whether he was going to play it short, whether he wasn't. That creates doubt within your backline very, very quickly, and we've already got a fragile backline as it is. So, yeah, it needs to go back to basics, Tino.
And that was your line last night, Paddy, and I can understand that. You know, let's not try and run before we can walk again as a team, as a group, and there's a lot to be said for that. The Schmeichel, there was a funny moment with the Schmeichel thing. I don't know if you caught it, but the chant came up from the boys up in the top corner, and it was Michael. To Michael. And I think a lot of fans thought it was Schmeichel and started booing that. And then there was this kind of awkward, hold on a minute, and it all kind of cleared itself up. But in terms of the back to basic stuff and doing things quick and the by kicks, when we do find that, I know I'm jumping ahead, but when we do find ourselves down to 10 men, Schmeichel was choosing to launch by kicks, goal kicks forward to Negren on the right, Maeda through the middle and James Forrest up on the left, and you've got Rocky Bashiri and other characters of that nature. It was madness. We just had to get it down and play it quickly, but because we were hesitant, and maybe that comes through a lack of confidence, the moment's gone, and when you're just booming it up the park, you're just tossing the coin, aren't you?
Yeah, and I kind of go back to, I know we're jumping again here, Tino, but I kind of go back to what you were saying about before the red, whether or not that affected the game. Obviously it does affect the game, it stretches us even more, but you know, there came a point where it kind of whipped around the stadium that Livingston had taken a 2-goal lead at the point, and the crowd was right behind them. Everyone was right behind the 11 on the park at that time, and actually we put ourselves under pressure during that spell. We put ourselves under so much pressure, it kind of looked like we were reverting back to what we've seen in the second half. It was reverting back to what we've seen against Stuttgart. No one really wanted to play the ball forward. No one shown in those positions to take the ball. It was all very much safe, far too safe. And this is the thing I'm saying, like, is that it's very difficult to coach people out of that. It's very difficult if they're in this mindset of revert to type that what we've seen under Brendan Rodgers, where they were all uncertain, they'd been called Honda Civics, they're under the impression that they're not good enough. It's coming back to the front. It's coming back to what we know this squad is all about. And listen, I've seen what this team can do. I've seen Callum McGregor win many a title, many a trophy. I've seen Daizen Maeda, Rio Hatate all being a part of it as well. But when something's done, it's done. And I do feel that there's a lot of them that have just down tools as well. So you've got a fragile state of mind with those players that have not been in that kind of run and not been in that winner's mentality, pushing for the rest of the season. And then you've got players who have and will probably feel hard done by, whether it's been replacements coming in that are of a standard, a good level of player, a good level of quality that they would expect to have alongside them, or whether it's players that we're expecting to leave in the summer window and maybe even the January window. Good luck to Martin O'Neill, Sean Maloney, trying to get a song out of that. That's very, very difficult.
And I think what you've got is, I've mentioned the squad management. It chops and changes dramatically game to game. It seems, I understand there's the Europa League squad, which has an impact in terms of Oxlade-Chamberlain and one or two others. But as I said there, Iheanacho in the squad one week, out the next. Bernardo in the starting lineup one game, out the next. Luke McCowan sometimes involved, sometimes not involved. Junior Adamu and Vuka that we've mentioned. There's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
And this, what you couldn't call this current squad is settled. It's not settled. You can be settled in average. We are unsettled and below average at this moment in time. It's so chop change, and I just don't think there's any consistency. And I think that's what leads to inconsistency in terms of your performances. Celtic, on occasion, particularly in games, right? Celtic have struggled to put together any real 90-minute performances this season. But in games, in moments in games, they've played well. I actually think in Stuttgart there was moments where we played really well on Thursday night. And there's passages of play and periods of the game that we play well, but the inconsistency then comes back in. And what you do have, and we go back to it time after time at this moment, is a fragility, a lack of confidence, a lack of belief, and maybe that's exactly what's playing out. Paddy, just in terms of the fans, I mentioned that kind of moment, Michael get to and all that stuff. I actually thought the atmosphere was, for whatever reason, a whole lot better today than it has been for some time. At different points, it just seemed the crowd were rallying. I'm not sure the reasons behind that, the psychology behind it. I wonder if some folks were at the point of just, let's just get behind the team regardless what's going on. I'm not entirely sure, but I thought it felt better. You can tell me your own thoughts on that. And I also think the crowd were bang up for it. And Livingston scoring goals, of course, helps that. That's just football. That's the emotion of football. You hear your rivals have gone a goal or two down. And actually, I think the crowd were properly up for it until the sending off, and that changed a lot at that point as well. What was your general take on the fans today and how they responded?
Yeah, I would agree. I actually thought it was a good atmosphere today. It was good singing throughout as well, and just brought back a bit of the atmosphere that's been lacking at Celtic Park for a little while. I think that when you obviously hear the goals go in, the players of what we've seen over the years, as I go back to Angie's season, first season in particular, they thrived off the energy. If we knew that something was happening elsewhere at another ground, they thrived off that and really stepped up the game. I just feel that we're still lacking that. I still feel that we're lacking that leadership on the park at the moment, and there's just an air of frustration between a lot of the players just now because there's no rhythm. There's something just not clicking at the moment. As I say, I thought there were some really, really good moments in getting the ball into the box, but it's then what do we do with that? What's the next step on that? It's been a really, really poor season in terms of goals scored. We can create all we want, but we need to put it in the back of the net tee.
100%. And as you said last night, it's been the longest season of your life, and it is only February 22nd. Paddy, let's get into some of the finer detail of the game then. So, as mentioned, Schmeichel does start in goals, and in terms of the opening parts of the game, fine, comfortable for the most part, but lacking, in my opinion, a killer touch, an edge that you'd maybe hope that someone like Oxlade-Chamberlain might bring to the party. He was okay today, wasn't he? He was fine, but he didn't properly influence the game. Yeah. And then you're thinking, okay, maybe Chanchara, your centre forward is the guy. I think he's actually regressed since a lively start in a Celtic shirt. He's had some moments. He scored a goal. He had a great assist at Hearts. He had a great assist at Kilmarnock last Sunday. But he's not brought a lot today, and I think actually there's a couple of big chances that he's had to go and do more.
Massive.
And yeah, and when you've just not got that spark. We don't have a talisman, do we? We don't have your go-to guy. At times it has been historically Callum McGregor. It's not at the moment. Maybe where he plays in the park also doesn't allow him to be that guy. But we've not got even like a Maverick, like a Jota or whatever. Nicholas Kuhn, Kyogo, Matt O'Reilly's guys that can give you moments of magic. I don't think that Celtic side have got that, Paddy.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And I think what we're now seeing as well is that there's also those players that you would expect to see that from, your McGregors, your Tierneys that have done it all with Celtic, Tino. They're looking at what they've got on the park with them as well, and there's an element that they just don't trust what's in front of them and what they're playing alongside, which is really, really sad to see as well. I don't think there's much of a link between Tierney and Tonetke. I don't think that's existing at all, which is really concerning. And in the same would be said, like for going through the middle, McGregor, he's really, really struggling to play the ball forward. He really is. It's all sideward passing or using his two centre halves to link up play, because he just doesn't trust the forward pass. Who is he playing it into? And listen, as I say, like we all want Oxlade-Chamberlain to come and hit the ground running. Absolutely, guy's not played football in 10 months, and we're already relying on him an awful lot. I know the Engels injury has not helped things, and we're actually having to ask for a lot more from him already. But for me, we still need to build up his fitness. I really thought it was the wrong move starting him today.
Yeah, and that's not hindsight. You said that last night. You didn't think it was the right move to start. I thought he would start, and I thought at the time it was possibly the right move, but it's not played out like anyone would have wanted. And as I say, we do miss this spark in the game. And yeah, as I mentioned, this fragility keeps coming in, and it's Hibs that do open the scoring. So let's get to that, because Celtic struggle to respond. I don't think we've got a lot of resilience about us, and when we go a goal down or a man goes off or whatever, we struggle to galvanise and regroup. But the goal, again, you spoke earlier on in the piece about shooting ourselves in the foot. That's what happens here. I do think there's an earlier phase of play where Scales can do better. With a clearance, I think he sells Tierney short with a pass. It all ends up a wee bit topsy-turvy. I think Yang can do better getting into a challenge. And then I think it's maybe the Ox and Callum McGregor have both got a chance to recover, but we don't. It ends up down the left-hand side. They play it back to the left wing. I don't know who put it in. It's a great ball. It's a really good cross into a dangerous area. But Tonetke has got back positionally to deal with it, and then just goes dreaming, goes sleeping. Yeah. From Hibs' point of view, it's a good goal, but from a Celtic point of view, Paddy, it's very, very avoidable.
You could see it play out, like the guy was pulled away, and as you say, Tonetke gets back, and you're like, right, good, he's in position, and then just switches off again. And actually, it wasn't the first time he'd done that. I clocked it a couple of times, He's very good at getting back into position, and then he just ball watches, doesn't watch for the player. That's basics. Even as a winger, you're taught that basically defending and what your job is when you're not with possession. I don't know what he was playing at. I really don't. And yeah, McGregor, he looked a bit slow. He looked a bit slow in the build-up. He tries to take the boy out at one point. He's nowhere near the ball, and that's the concern. But again, it comes from a lack of directness from Celtic, a lack of trying to play the ball out quicker. Again, too many touches on the ball. Hibs are in dreamland. I think if you watch the first half back, they restricted us to predominantly playing out from the left-hand side. Again, making sure that Liam Scales is the one who probably, if we find it on paper, would have most touches of the ball today. It's too slow. We're far too slow bringing the ball out for the back. And by the time Liam Scales has got his head up and decided who he's going to play the ball to, we're outmarked. It's happening too much.
Do you know that the frustration for me is we've now seen this since the Brendan Rodgers days and then some. See, when you're constantly relying on Liam Scales to be your creative, then something's wrong. The model's broken.
But it's not that we're relying on it. It's that it doesn't take clever clubs to just watch. All we need to do the minute we're bringing the ball out for the back, whether it's a goal kick or whether it's a free kick, all they need to do is stay off Liam Scales, make him the only option for the goalkeeper, and that's who the ball goes to 9 times out of 10. It's not that it's by design from Celtic play out for Liam Scales. It can't be, because his final ball's not that good at all. It's because he's left to his own devices because he's not good enough.
But in that case, we need to be smarter as a team. So if we see that they're allowing Liam Scales to get on the ball, then there's got to be some further movement and more creativity in front of him to allow him to get it to an Oxlade-Chamberlain, who we know can be talented on the ball, or Negren, or someone else that can unlock defences. But the more... I would hang my hat on the fact that Liam Scales spent more time on the ball today than any other Celtic player.
Easy.
Ball at feet. And he comes out, and when he comes out with the ball, like anybody, see if you do it in 1 and 2 touches or maybe 3, things continue to flow and you get a bit of momentum. Scales takes 4 and 5 and 6 touches and then eventually plays a backwards pass or a sidewards pass or a bad pass on the 7th. And maybe that isn't his fault. Maybe a lot of that comes down to folks further ahead. But we're very predictable when it comes to that. And you're absolutely right. Teams just seem to kind of push us down our left-hand side and say, go for broke, because we know that generally speaking, you're not going to hurt us from there. Liam Scales isn't going to hurt us from there. And we'll take our chances on that basis. Just a quick one. Obviously, the focus here is Celtic and what we're doing. There's a central midfielder that was playing for Hibs today, Miguel Chaiwa, number 14. I thought he was excellent. I really thought he kind of controlled the game. And he was a guy that Celtic were linked with a couple of months ago, which seemed like a bizarre link at the time because he wasn't in the Hibs team at the time. It was so strange and couldn't really make sense of it. I thought he was really good today, potentially man of the match. He just controlled everything in that midfield area.
He did, and then he could have played for another 90 minutes as well. He had some engine on him. I thought he didn't look out of place at all, and actually we struggled to get near him. Very, very good performance. I wasn't against it at all.
Yeah, so he's 21 years of age, joined Hibs from Young Boys of Bern. Don't know what they paid for him, not much I would presume. But again, probably a guy that maybe Celtic have missed out on now if he's in there and impressing. Who knows? But I thought he was important. And there's a kid at 21-year-old dominating Callum McGregor, 32, dominating the Ox, 32-ish, I think, as well, and Benjamin Negren, who's 24. That wee guy had the run of the midfield, and I thought he totally controlled that, and that is an indication that things aren't right for Celtic. Paddy, obviously, they get the goal, and as I say, Celtic don't really have the answers. There was no immediate rallying by the team. That's the concern for me. Any team can lose a goal at any point, but it's how you respond to it. And eventually we do get the equaliser. And it's just very simple, isn't it? Celtic sometimes try and make life more complex, but there's just a lot to be said for going back to basics, finding a guy out wide in space and getting in early. And that's kind of what happens, and Benjamin Negren does what Benji Negren continues to do and just finds himself in a good space. It's a decent goal, Paddy, but we need more of that.
Yeah, we do. And I think the amount of times as well that the ball was getting played in and Chvanchara's trying to hold it up, he goes down far too easily. I've spoke about this. He needs to stop trying to play for this kind of foul. He's just never going to get it in Scotland. He needs to be able to stand his ground, because he's got perfect space for a layoff, and he tried to do that a couple of times on Thursday against Stuttgart, and a couple of times a day. I could see that he was in the position to do the same again. The big issue that you have there is that we're not sending the midfielders in. We're not sending them to follow up, to be the players that he lays it off to. And Negren was really frustrating because he was actually sometimes running across Fanchara and then not being there at the right place at the right time in that first half. But then the 1 minute he gets away from his marker, it's a good run and it's a good header from him. I mean, as I say though, I just think for all the goals he's scoring, absolutely, like they're important, especially because we don't have that striker that's scoring goals for Celtic. But for what he's doing in the middle of the park, it's not good enough.
It's mad, isn't it? It's a real hard thing to get your head around, the fact that he scored, what is it now, 17, maybe 18, 17 or 18 goals. And folks have rightly asked the question, where would we be without those 17 or 18 goals? Absolutely. But where might you also be with a more complete midfielder in there? A Matt O'Reilly type or someone that's able to kind of do all sides of midfield. Goal-scoring midfielders are really valuable, but you might be better with one that scored 9 or 10 but had a more complete game to offer. That's the ongoing enigma that is Benji Negren. Paddy, we got into the second half. I thought the response after half-time was fairly decent. I thought we were kind of taking the game to Hibs, and for the most part, we were kind of, keeping them kind of, camped in their defence for the most part. We make 2 changes though on the hour mark, and to call them inspired changes would be so far off the mark. Dai's Maeda that comes on and Rio Hatate comes on for Oxlade-Chamberlain and for Chanchara, and it didn't have any impact on the game. Martin O'Neill's getting a fair bit of criticism from what I've seen since the final whistle about, not about the bigger picture, he can't control that, but about his substitutions and the part they played. And we'll get to James Forrest that you've mentioned as well. What do you make of that? Does he have many other options? Should he have, sat tight? Was there other changes that you would like to have seen him make? What was your thoughts on that double substitution?
I think it's a tough one for him, Tino. And listen, we know what Martin O'Neill's all about. He's built an incredible legacy at this football club, and even in his 2 return spells in the one season, still funny even saying that. He's showed what he can do domestically for us as well in terms of the results. Only his first domestic defeat in the league today is incredible, considering what we're up against in the quality of the team that we have. I think what you do have to look at though is there's only so many times you can try and get a song out of Rio Hatate, and I'm also now saying the same for Dai's and Maeda. The guy's heads are gone, and I don't think they would, especially Maeda, I don't think you would have been getting much from him if he's coming off the bench as well. But I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure what the thinking was with the subs. But for me, the issue is that he's got no one else. He's got no one else. I think he's clearly not happy with the quality of player that's come in. No Mvuka again. Adamu, why is he not come on as a recognised striker to lead the line with Maeda maybe going out into the wing? He's not done it. So it smacks to me that basically he's not happy, he's not trusting in the players that he's got at his disposal, and he's using the ones that have already done it at Celtic. But for me, they've done it, they want to go, and they wanted to go a long time ago.
Yeah, and I think on that basis, it simply comes down to the fact that he does not have the suitable options. He's obviously made the call to bring on Hatate and Maeda, and I'm sure he'd far rather have better options. A more ready-made number 9. It is clear he clearly doesn't trust Junior, right? Otherwise, he comes on. That's just obvious. So for whatever reason, he's finding himself still in squads. And Mvuka, as mentioned, can't even get in the squad. Which I'm all the more puzzled about the Iheanacho thing, right? I know Iheanacho isn't fit, but that sub was made on the hour mark. So can Iheanacho give you half an hour and a goal threat? I think he can. I think that, so I don't know if there's something going on behind the scenes. I guess, sometimes you'll never find out. It might have been an attitude thing. He might have responded, poorly not to getting more minutes against Stuttgart, something like that. But the bottom line is Martin O'Neill does not have the suitable options to do what he wants to do. So he has to bring on guys that he knows probably aren't good enough, who he knows whose heads have been turned, he knows maybe aren't fully motivated to be here. But what else can you do? If he realises that the Ox needs to go off after an hour and that Chanchara's not doing it after an hour, then he's got to do something. But those guys had next to no impact, Paddy. Very little impact in the game at all. Further on from that, 10 minutes later, it is Forrest that comes on for Yang. I'm a big Yang fan. Terrible today. Terrible. He had a shot towards the end of the first half where he nearly took out one of the floodlights. He had a pass out in the second half where it bounced over his foot out for a throw-in, and various other bad moments. But Sirachi comes in, and I like Sirachi, and I think we can all agree that he brings an energy to the team. He comes on for Tierney on the 69th minute. But the big moment, Paddy, and let's stay on it for now, is the sending off of Auston Trusty on the 74th minute. And watching it in real time, so I sit in the north stand and I'm looking at the corner. Apart from anything else, we didn't know who was going to take the corner. Celtic didn't know, and it looked like Arujo was about to put it in, which I don't think he's ever hit a corner for Celtic, because Tierney had gone and he was the usual taker. Engels takes a lot of corners, he's not around. So they weren't sure who was going to take it in the first place. And while we're waiting and while all the jostling's going on, the jostling that goes on at every corner in every game of professional football, I glance up and I just about catch the tussle between Trusty and the defender. And I thought it was nothing at the time. And the ref thought it was nothing at the time. He said a bit of a word with both guys, but then it's gone to VAR. And once it goes to VAR and once the ref goes to check, you're as good as done. And my feeling coming away for the ground was, if this is what red cards are getting given out for now, the game's gone, because you'll be doing it every corner. But I've only just seen one replay of it before coming on here. It's a moment of madness from Trusty. It's unnecessary. It's an overreaction. I understand, push the guy away, do what you want. but he's kind of struck down on the guy's arm with just quite ridiculous force, and it gives the ref a call to make. And once the VAR gets involved, you're done, Paddy. And I think Martin O'Neill says much the same about it.
It's a moment of madness, but again, like another time, another player, another red card this season. That's just stupid. And again, that shows to me that there's not that 100% commitment for the players in certain moments from those players that are receiving those red cards. Hearts aside, I think that was a harsh one, but just the silliness of Hatate over in Bologna, and then just it's just mad. I don't know what you're trying to do. It's our corner. You're not defending. You've not got a striker coming up and annoying and harassing you. You're on the ascendancy. Create your own space and run. How long have you been playing football for? And why are you letting people get into your head? It's weak. Completely weak.
He's an international footballer, Paddy. He's played at top levels in Europe. He's played for us in Champions League. And, it is that cliche, you're giving the ref a call to make. And at that point, you're always going to be running the risk. You and I spoke very briefly before coming on. And it's an interesting debate here. I think up to that point, Celtic are in control. And in my head, all I'm thinking is that Celtic will get the winner we need. Hopefully we see the game out 2-1. I thought we're pretty much in control, and Hibs had barely threatened us in that second half. And I was fairly confident at that point before the sending off we were going to win it. But you think otherwise? You didn't think we had that control in the game?
Yeah, well, for me, Tino, listen, a lot of it in the middle of the park. I think back to a Negrin shot that the keeper parried away. I can't think of us doing anything else up to before that red card, other than obviously winning the corner. I just didn't see enough from us. We're not clinical enough. And as I say, the noise goes around that Livingston have got a second. Fans are starting to bring the atmosphere up a bit. You should be pushed on by that. You should be thinking, right, come on, let's go and get a second goal. And I just didn't see anyone willing or capable of taking that forward for us. I think they're a team that lack a lot of ideas, actually. And yeah, for me, just not enough leaders in it, as I've said before. So no, I don't think we were in like major control. Maybe control of the ball in terms of possession, but I mean, what good is that if you're not doing anything with it and breaking in behind? There was none of it. Not enough forward passing. All going out to the wings. Very much for me a sign of the horseshoe of death as well. It was spoke about before. A lot of these guys are just so used to that, and as I say, if you've got players that are checked out or feeling the pressure, they're going to play it safe, Tino. And I still think we've seen that with 11 men.
Yeah, we're a side that rely on width, Paddy, and for the width to, I know the sending off impacts this, but for the width to end up as James Forrest and Negrin latterly, were you surprised that, and I don't think any of the two of them are having a good game, right, Yang or Tunetke, but sometimes in football you can have guys that aren't having a good game, but you kind of need to keep them on because you think they're the one possible outball or outlet that might lead to something. On that basis, and you're right, we didn't create a whole bundle of clear-cut chances in that second half. Were you surprised to see those two go off?
Yes, but this kind of takes me back to what if we're looking at that kind of player that can maybe get to the byline and maybe I don't know, stab a ball up into the air or keep a low cut back for us, and you want that to put pressure onto a team who ultimately looked pretty comfortable today. Maybe a couple of times getting beaten at the right hand side, but for me, your best impact from a player like Tunetke when the chips are down, I think he's the kind of guy you want to come on. I think he brings a lot more from the bench. I don't think he's got 90 minutes in him, and I think that's a big element of it too. Surprised to see Negrin last 90 minutes as well today. Like I just feel there's a few of them that they're better impact players. I'm not saying you start James Forrest, but I still just don't understand why James Forrest is coming on to save that game. I don't get it. I don't get it.
I think James Forrest is really struggling. Don't get me wrong, he's coming into a struggling side, but he's not enhancing what we're doing. No. And it used to be the thing that James Forrest was doing in recent times was retaining possession. He'd keep the ball well. He would circulate the ball and recycle the ball and pop out the other side and eventually probe to the point you get a chance. None of that's happening, and he's giving it away, and his shooting's poor, and there's nothing coming. There's no attacking threat from James Forrest, to the point where it's such a safe substitution. You know, it's not a substitution which is a game changer or a gamble or a risk that might pay off. It just isn't really having any impact at all. And maybe, again, it just leans towards the lack of squad depth. Paddy, obviously, at that moment, Trusty goes off in the 74th minute, but we've still got the corner, and eventually they switch it, so Arujo doesn't take it, and I think it might be Negren that goes out to take it. And it's a decent ball to a decent area, and I didn't really see it at the time. I have seen it back since. Liam Scales is getting into a decent area, and there is a clear pull. You can see the picture where his shirt is being tugged, and that isn't given. And there's a bit of confusion, apparently. There's some VAR chat that there was a foul outside the area leading up to it or something. I don't know if you've caught any of that stuff, but what's your take on that? Why are Celtic not getting that penalty? Which might have just papered over the cracks, by the way, but why are we not getting that?
I don't know. Like I would need to look into everything that happened with it, to be honest to you. But just unfortunately not had a good look at Twitter since I've come in for the stadium.
Don't do it.
I know. I need to try and pull myself away from it, to be honest. But for me, it looked like a penalty for the North Upper. I thought definitely he's been pulled down. He's too honest, Liam Scales, to dive as well. So you know he's been pulled about somehow. There was a lot of disbelief once it was cleared as well. I could see that for the players as to what had happened. But once the referee had explained, I think, to McGregor, there wasn't really too much protest in there. So I need to see what it was about. But how there could be a foul outside the box or in the lead up to it from a corner, I don't know. Yeah,
that's a puzzler. But often with these kind of things, you can tell by the player's reaction if it seems genuine or not. And Liam Scales was furious and he was adamant, and he kept the debate going. And there was a couple of minutes after it wasn't given, he was still at the ref at the halfway line. He was furious about it. And I think, having seen the replays, there's a genuine case there. So, listen, we could be all magnanimous and say some you get, some you don't. But in the midst of a title race, that's one you should be getting. And that's one that maybe puts you 2-1 up. Don't know who would have hit it, by the way. There's no angles, and it's a mystery who would hit our penalties these days. Probably Negren, because that's all he does, score the goals. But it gives you something to hold on to and maybe try and see out the game with 10 men. But at that point, one each 10 men, Hibs get all the fuel in the game, and they kind of start to, they smell blood, Paddy. I think that's the bottom line. And that's what eventually leads to their goal. Before I do forget, I do want to give mention to Benjamin Arthur, who's come in at that point. We've shuffled the pack. I don't think he put a foot wrong, Paddy. Big boy. I don't know what age he is, 19, 20 years of age, actually. And again, we've only seen him for a short amount of time there, but we won't have Auston Trusty going to Ibrox next week. Maybe a blessing, who knows. But on initial showing, and of course it's only 15 minutes or so, I thought the big guy done okay.
Listen, they're going to come at us with big, tall, physical players next week. So for him to even just get that half hour a day and come out it, first good couple of touches, good couple of passes, and then get his head on a few balls as well. He didn't look out of place at all, Tino. Looked fit enough, looked quick enough. I wouldn't say it's an easy one for him next week. But you've got to make your stamp at some point. And again, hopefully, a silver lining of loan signings, because the rest leaving a lot to be desired, to be honest, apart from maybe Arujo.
Yeah, I think it's an understatement to say that the jury's out. I think the jury's back in on many of these guys, and it just isn't going to work for several players for different reasons. But yeah, so Benjamin Arthur, good luck to him, having made his Celtic debut. I'm not going to dwell on the Hibs goal, Paddy. As I say, they started to find the space. They are then the team in the ascendancy, they're the team in control, and they work it out fairly well down our left-hand side, and a couple of passes cut back, and it's job done. And as you say, it comes through a ruck of bodies. I'm not sure if there's much the goalie can do at that point. And it's 2-1 and we're dead and buried. And listen, it was just such a feeling of frustration as you leave the ground. There was a bit of the kind of red card in my head at the moment, at that moment, as to whether it was a red card or not. We've since discussed it. But ultimately, it just feels like a huge opportunity lost, Paddy, particularly with Rangers drawn. And, we were aware of the score at Livingston at that time. But it just seems like a huge opportunity lost, and it takes the momentum away. Because up until today, we had been speaking about that incredible domestic record of Martin O'Neill since returning. This is his first domestic defeat. And it's going to be interesting how he responds to that. And I heard him stuck on the car with my dad, stuck on the car on the radio in the car on the way home. And you hear Martin O'Neill, and he was quite the thing about it all. He wasn't getting all I've seen some comments, Martin O'Neill should walk and he will walk. listen, he's not going to walk. He's here to try and win a league, and he might win it and he might not win it, but he knows what he was getting himself in for. He's not a stupid guy. But he seemed to be, I think it might have been Kerry Dinitz and that was interviewing him saying, is that a hammer blow to your title aspirations? He said it's a setback, and that's all it is. Because cool heads are required at this moment in time for me, Paddy, because we've discussed at the top of the piece. So I'm doing my eternal optimist thing, but it's genuinely how I feel. But I think the reality is, whatever has gone on up until today, this afternoon, this very moment, Celtic are still in the race, and I think it would just be defeatist to give up on it. So I think whilst we are a poor side, Rangers are a poor side, and Hearts aren't a brilliant side either. The only good side I'm seeing actually is Motherwell, and we can't be too complacent about that. They're breathing down our necks all of a sudden. But
interesting fact with Motherwell, Tino, that was apparently I heard on the radio today the first 5-0 game of the season of the SPFL yesterday. That's insane.
Yeah. I know. I was surprised that. Listen, it's a bit of a crazy season. It's a bit of a one-off season. It's so unique, and someone somewhere mentioned the fact that when was the last time on match day, whatever this is, 26, 27, that you had 4 teams who genuinely, mathematically could still win the title. That's unheard of. Now, I would say that's largely in part to Celtic's failings. The Wilfried Nancy experiment, there's 12 points you can account for there, and various other things throughout the season. So let me ask you, Paddy, as we start to kind of head towards the end of the piece, and thanks, there's loads of comments coming in, there's lots of back and forth, and I'll try and highlight a couple before we finish here. Celtic have now lost 7 games in the league, and that is bizarre. But as I say, despite that, we are still in the mix. What can Celtic do? What should Celtic do? And how should Martin O'Neill try and regroup and galvanise? We know we've got a real tough run coming up now. Let me get myself clear on that. We've got Stuttgart away on Thursday. Probably goes and plays the kids. You can let me know what you think. We're then at Ibrox on Sunday. We're then at Pittodrie during the week, and then back to Ibrox. And there's people dreading those games, terrified those games. I'm all for it. This is what we're here for, in my opinion, Paddy. And I think, listen, they could be, tough days and all that kind of stuff. But if you deserve to win a league, if you're going to win a league, you need to go and win at Ibrox. You need to go and beat Hearts. You need to go and deal with, emerging Motherwell sides and all these kind of things. And I don't know. There's nothing else for it for me. We just need to go for it and try and fight and scrap and bite and do what we need to do and stay in this race.
Yeah, listen, absolutely, and I think that's the easy message for the players to take on board. My concern is that do they have the mentality to go and really stand up to the occasion? Because as fans, listen, we've seen it before. We've seen last day title wins. We've seen last few game run-ins, especially under Ange not too long ago. We've felt the pressure 100%, and we've lived with it. But the big factor in that is the quality of player that we've had at our disposal as well. It would take a massive effort for this team to go and win the league. 7 defeats in one season. Predominantly, you don't see a league winner with 7 defeats. In all my years of watching Celtic, I don't think we've lost as many and won the league.
I don't know the stats on it. Someone smarter than us will look into that. But of a 38 game league campaign, and we're only, 27 into that 38 games, to have lost 7 already, to have lost 7 out of your 20 is crazy. But the bottom line is we're still in the mix, and that's the way I'm going to look at it. Paddy, before I come to you for your final comments, and obviously you and I and James will be back tomorrow on the weekly show to cover it all in a bit more detail. I'd love anyone watching the live just now just to give us your one-word answer. Will Celtic win this title? A simple yes or no. Let us know what you think. No further detail required, and we can try and drill into that. Paddy, as mentioned, it's another tough week coming up. We've got, Stuttgart. We're 4-1 down, get into the second leg, and that's pretty much done and dusted. And then it's Ibrox on Sunday. But your own final thoughts, your general reflections on another tough day and another tough season for Celtic.
Feels like Groundhog Day in terms of just repeating myself on where I think this all stems from, Tino. I do think it's the poor management of this football club that's led us to this point. I would love nothing more to be proved wrong and we go and win the league this year, absolutely, and I would be more than happy to go and see us do that. Of course I would. I'm looking at just the mentality of the team and looking at what they can bring to the table in this run-in. Some really big games coming up, and we speak about this little box window. I would take Stuttgart out of the equation and just be ready for Ibrox next week. It could go one of two ways. We could go and get the result over there, and then decide, right, this is it, this is time to push on and you know, put pressure on both Rangers and Hearts. But I do feel if we don't win next week, it's a very, very long way back.
And I can't disagree with that. I think we need to, at the very least, get a draw at Ibrox, and our record there of recent hasn't been great. But a draw at Ibrox keeps you absolutely in the mix, and then you've got Pittodrie beyond that, where you would hope for another 3 points. But we'll get to all of that when we get to it, Paddy. There's a long way between now and next Sunday, and there's a lot of discussion to be had, and we'll definitely have that tomorrow in the show. Just in terms of the questionnaire, will we win the league, there's a whole raft of answers coming in. Sofoli says no, John Coyle says no, Regina says no, William O'Toole says yes, Rab McEwen says yes, Charlie says no, other people are saying no effing chance, Andrew says no, William Smith says no. Let me see one or two others. San Fran Celtic says keep the faith, and I'll stick with that. Listen, it's now a slim chance, or a slimmer chance than it was before this afternoon. There's no doubt about it. But from me personally, so long as there is a chance, I will back Celtic as best I can to see what we can do. But there's no doubt it's going to be tough, and we'll know a whole lot more about where we're at when we come back from Ibrox this time next week and everything that follows then. But in the meantime, Paddy, thanks for joining us here on a Sunday. Really appreciated. Thanks to everyone who's watched us here on the live. As mentioned at the start of the piece, we put on these live pre and post match shows for every Celtic game at the Celtic Exchange Patreon channel. You can check that all out at patreon.com/Celtic Exchange. If you're not already a part of what we do, we're running free trials of membership for 7 days if you want to sign up just now and get involved. So do that if you get the chance, patreon.com/Celtic Exchange. And we will be back tomorrow night with Celtic Exchange Weekly, where we'll cover all of this and more as we continue to look ahead to this crazy season that Celtic are having. Thanks to everyone who's joined us here. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday if you can. We'll see you all again tomorrow night.